Hello and welcome. You are watching QTV and you are watching the Week in Review. I'm Ade Darami, your host, and my co-host is across the table from me, Mamadou Mboj. Mr. Mboj, welcome to the program as usual.
Glad to be here, Ade.
I'm glad that you're here. And for anybody joining us for the first time, it's a simple enough show. It's called the Week in Review. I always say this because many people might be joining us for the first time. And we call it the Week in Review because we take 10 stories that we think are either big or interesting or both, and we kick them around a bit and give them a bit more time. These are all stories that we featured here on QTV during the week. So what's on the menu, I hear you ask? Well, 54th Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Africa conference took place here in the Gambia, and it was opened by His Excellency the President. Also, this is the time when people have been biting their fingernails. Why? The WASC examination results came out this week. What did they reveal? I won't spoil it now. Keep on watching. And Gambia, we're on track to link up and benefit from the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, or Free Trade Area, I should say, because we've signed up and we apparently have everything in place. Yes, really. And also President Barrow this week welcomed the President of Sierra Leone, Julius Maada Bio, in his role as the current chairman of ECOWAS. And also abroad, a jungler, Michael Sankorea, is due to be sentenced soon in America. We go abroad as well, Mali, where the junta has said that there's been an alleged coup attempt. Yeah, I know, military juntas say this all the time. So these are some of the stories. So let's get things off and running, shall we? And of course, no better place to start than the fact that the Gambia is hosting the 54th CPA Africa Region Conference. Here's some of what they've been talking about.
Distinguished patronage of President Adama Barrow and the leadership of the Speaker of the National Assembly, Fabakary Tombong Jatta, in his capacity as President of the CPA Africa Region. The event, set to last until 16th of August, brings together over 300 delegates from national and subnational parliaments across Africa, including speakers and members of parliament, clerks, secretariat officials, and development partners, to foster dialogue and collaboration on critical issues affecting governance and democracy in the region.
We have carried the shoulders and burdens of all African people as members of parliament, and they're expecting us to do things in an unusual manner. They are expecting us to bring them food. They are expecting us to give them the jobs. They're expecting us to give them shelter. It would be sad if we can't bring solutions.
The salvation of Africa lies in democratic governance, proper policies and appropriate actions, sustained by peace, stability, and security.
Peace, stability, and the word that was cut off there, security. These are the things that will sustain democracy. Mr. Mboj, a lot of the talk was about democracy. And before His Excellency the President there, we had the current Speaker of the National Assembly of Malawi, first woman to hold that post, speaking. And she was kind of throwing down the gauntlet, saying, you know, there are things that people expect from us, etc., etc. And in a longer part of her speech, she said, you know, we don't want this to just be a talking shop. But of course, that's what everybody had accused it of being.
That's it. We complain about that all the time, don't we? Yes. Recently, for me, first of all, I thought, gosh, we've been sort of hosting high-profile stuff recently.
Now we've got a nice conference center.
Absolutely. You know, we had the Good Governance Forum earlier on.
That's right. Just
Good
not long
Jonathan's
ago.
one yesterday, and this for the first time we've got this one.
Yeah.
Certainly the prestige. And the other bit, now we are perhaps the poster boy of our successful transition.
From a kind of authoritarian
to
very much so.
To all of that.
It has its teething problems, but very much, as you said, the poster boy for how it can be done. Yeah.
That's it. So now we put this within the context of the theme.
Yeah, quite.
Isn't it?
That's right.
Strengthening democratic governance and resilience in Africa, tackling conflicts, economic shocks, and climate risks. Yes. Interesting, holistic way, given that perhaps good governance underpins our capacity to respond to these areas.
Sure.
So this is it. Then I said, okay, how do I apply this to our country? What are we doing in terms of good governance?
Yeah, sure.
How well have we come?
Economic,
how far?
Not to mention economic shocks and
the
climate
economic
risks.
shocks. What we're doing.
So what did your scorecard show? If I might put it that way.
When it comes to governance, how do you judge it? What am I trying to judge here?
Sure.
Do we judge it by, I don't know, the elections we have, as it were? Do we judge it by, I don't know, institutional efficiency?
Yeah.
You know,
I
institutions being there, isn't it, for the people, as it were, serving the people. So you judge it by these things, and you realize that, God, we have a long way to go, isn't it?
Because you yourself have said that if you can get the governance right,
yeah,
it can allow you to deal with these other things like the economic shocks and the climate risks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's it. Though in other areas, largely the parliament functions, as it were, and the judiciary.
Yeah.
These are key, really, to our overall governance, reasonably independently. Yeah. We've seen certain things. So, as always, you do get a mixed picture in these things.
Sure.
Then you move on to economically. Yes, when it comes to headline sort of growth, as it were, you've been recording 3%, 4%, whatever. And yet
people are not feeling it.
People are not feeling it. Cost of living and that sort of thing. There's an issue there. Yeah. Climate vulnerabilities.
It's there every day.
There, that's it. And we know that we are one of the most vulnerable around. So, whilst this is a sort of showcase of the Gambia, you know, it gives us prestige. It's also a reminder of the unfinished business.
Yes, and I think you said the phrase, how far we have to go and how much more we need to do. Because yes, they would have said, yes, they're the poster boy, you know, for want of a better word, for the transition from an authoritarian to a kind of democratic, properly democratic sort of system. But they probably wouldn't have held us up as being the most successful, having made that transition because of the various things that we need to do, kind of systemic weaknesses that are in the civil service and in the public sector generally, particularly, really. And so, yes, they were meant to have various sessions where they shared ideas and best practice. And you do wonder what the kind of, I use the word scorecard, what the kind of scorecard would have been for the Gambia in terms of, you know, strengthening its public sector particularly.
Absolutely, but you know, these bodies, they're just so diplomatic, consensual, nothing to rock the boat.
You're not going to come to the Gambia and blast the Gambia, for example, your host.
Stuff like that.
So, yeah.
But I hope that they've sort of managed to share best practice, as they say.
Which is what they said they were. One of the sessions was about
Absolutely.
that.
And identify areas of cooperation. You know, you can have a group that come together because of, you know, they've identified an area where they can really benefit one another, and that sort of thing. And I'm sure that you'll have some states that get benefits from these bodies, you know what I mean, in one form or another. So it just depends on what a state does, isn't it? That will determine what you get from it, I suppose. So I do not know how far really we are out there energetic.
Well, I said to Mam Nabuka, who did the session that we heard, I said, I'm waiting to see the report that they're going to produce at the end of it. You know, what kind of suggestions are they going to make? Because they dealt with everything, particularly the ones that are, you know, the kind of conflicts. And, you know, interestingly that, you know, when it comes to the ones they want to tackle, they put conflicts first and then economic shocks, rather than economic shocks, then conflicts, and then, you know, climate risk. So, yeah, it will be interesting to see what they come up with, and also how do you take forward whatever recommendations or suggestions come from a conference like this.
And look at them, they're just so big, these sort of organizations, you see. So I think they really cannot be activistic in anything, really, because you might begin to see contradictions in different divisions, as it were. So often the recommendations, what we get from that is, I suppose, what they call expressive commitments. You know what I mean? You know, I support ABC, that
it would
sort
be
of
good
thing.
to do this, that kind of thing.
But not what they call instrumental commitments,
Well,
coming with a workable program that they're really not for that.
No.
So, but they have some soft power, if I can call it that.
Yeah.
So if one can, tap into that, and it could be of some use. So no need though to expect what it really cannot deliver, as it were. So that's how I see some of these bodies.
I think it's a good way to see them. Thank you for that, Mr. Mboj. And story number 2, as I said, this time, not just in West Africa, across the world, because I looked at England and we saw, children and their parents biting their fingernails in dread and anticipation of what, I hear you ask, of course, exam results. So the West African Senior School Certificate exam, WASC, they were out. What did they reveal? This will tell you.
This year, the Gambia recorded an encouraging increase in examination candidature with 20,247 candidates from 156 senior secondary schools registered for the examination. An impressive 12.22% growth compared to last year. The gender distribution shows a confident step towards inclusive education with 62.44% female and 37.56% male participation. These successes are no accident. They result from targeted reforms, dedicated teachers, and strategic investment by the ministry and partners. Such progress compels us to double down or double on our effort.
Minister Drameh commended the teachers and the government for their support in advancing the country's educational system, highlighting ongoing reforms to strengthen teaching quality, expand access to learning materials, and rise academic standards in schools across the Gambia. In July this year, Minister Drameh presided over the launch of the Professional Standards Bureau for Teachers.
Standards Bureau for Teachers. Mr. Mboj, I always feel sorry for those who have to give out these results because we await them eagerly. We kind of spend 5 minutes hailing the good ones or the good results, and then we spend a lot of time delving into the bad ones. I saw one headline said poor results in English and maths, and that was their headline for this, and that was here in the Gambia. But there were other results, and there were encouraging signs from this year's results. Well, I had the argument when somebody was trying to tell me that 5% getting X whatever was a good. I said, 5%? Come on, that's not brilliant. But they were trying to say that it should be something to sing and dance about.
Yes, so I sort of did a comparative survey with our partners.
Yeah,
this is why
in the region. It's West Africa.
It's West Africa.
Examination Council sets all these exams.
Exactly. Yeah. Sierra Leone, Liberia, Ghana, Nigeria.
Yeah.
I looked at Nigeria, really. 62% gained credits in 5 subjects, including English and math.
Yeah.
And when you look at other countries, we are woefully down there.
And I actually had an argument about somebody because they wanted that to be the kind of headline that we should go with, the kind of low figure of people getting credits. And I said, no. I said, in fact, I didn't do that comparison, but I just said off the top of my head, I said, I bet if you compare to other countries, we're way behind. But you've done the maths, as it were.
Absolutely.
You've done the delving. Yeah.
That's it. So when I heard that the 156 senior secondary schools registered, I was wondering, should I automatically think state schools? Because I want to know if they're different private schools, whether, what's the performance there.
Yeah, well.
Once you started with the numbers.
Yes.
That took the exams.
Yeah, quite.
This time 20,000, what 12.2% increase on last year's. I said, was that really the headline story? I wish that she had started with sort of like, we've got, I don't know, 20%, even that, of passes, of people with 5 credits, including English and maths, But this is it. There's a lot of work to be done.
There is. Yeah.
Some of us suspected because we interact with all of them.
This is it. Yeah.
That's it. But we've always said that after a long time, what this government is doing, having to really go back, take care of things in a way that they should. Be teachers, curriculum, focus quite in depth. And we all know that education is just such a slow process.
That's it. And that's why I deliberately ended with the mention of the Teaching Standards Board, because we definitely need that. Because people get bored of me saying it. When I've gone to some of the schools, I've not been impressed with the teachers. If I'm not impressed with the teachers, then it's because these are the ones who are imparting the knowledge to our children, and if they're not good, then they're not going to impart decent knowledge, and we're not going to get good results. You can't put in bad and expect good.
For a long time, we've been seeing big surveys telling us that when it comes to learning outcomes, we are not really doing well. It's just that when it comes to learning inputs, as it were, the number of students going up. Right. So this is not a surprise now. So you have that, we've got it. But really the focus, we all know that the focus is really on the outcomes. Really.
And I think you saw the thing I shared about the school in East London, and, in the UK, which outperformed some of the highest fee-paying schools. It's a state school in one of the poorest areas of London. And for the last 5 years, they've been outperforming Eton and all these other, top paying schools. Why? Because they have good teachers. And in fact, one of the headlines said, the school that bans mobile phones gets some of the best results in the country. I bet others are going to be copying that, emulating that. Because why? They've set certain standards and they've got good teachers. And now everybody's thinking, how do they do it? Teachers, kids who are on free school meals, people, from, disadvantaged backgrounds, and yet they have outperformed the best of the very best. They've sent more pupils to Oxford University in the last 3 years than Eton, and that's only turned around in the last 3 years because of good teaching.
So it can happen. It's not by magic
it's
that a school becomes the best. Considered the best. There are certain things that you're going to do.
As you said, it's a long process.
It's a long process.
And it has to start.
That's it. For us here, maybe structurally something happened. Whereas in the past, during our period, the best in the class became teachers before they became anything else. So gradually, sort of, we've been going down the barrel in many ways because with post-independence, and afterwards the best in the class became lawyers, doctors, and all the rest of it. And teaching itself, well, government have not been coming up with any kinds of package or incentive to make it attractive to people with high IQ brains, as it were, the top in the class, having the ambition to become a teacher. But rarely would you get that now, whereas before, perhaps it used to be like that. Not anymore. It's never going to be like that. So it will depend on government policy to attract certain brains. Absolutely, so that they can gain their status.
So until then, we will go say must try harder.
Absolutely. I think what is interesting here, though, is the sort of gender distribution. 62% female, 37 male.
Last week we were discussing something else, and I said it's one of these, is it a typo moments? When this came up in the office, that's exactly what everybody said. Is there a mistake in that figure? No, there isn't a mistake in the figure. 62.44% female, 37.56%.
Absolutely.
Male. Staggering.
So what I did was, I went straight to look at our gender parity index. This is for tertiary education. So the transition from secondary to tertiary. And I understand that with our gender parity index, we score what they call 0.70. That really means that for every 100 male, you've got 70 female. That's so in between secondary and tertiary, so much happened. How can one really, as it were, tackle that to make a similar reflection, perhaps, I don't know, to close the gap in many ways.
That's right.
When it comes to tertiary education.
So they say in London Underground, mind the gap. But thank you for that, Mr. Mboj. And now something very, very different. We're talking about the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, and it's been talked about for a long time, but it seems that we're getting closer and closer to making it a reality. Honestly, don't take my word for it. Listen to this.
We are currently preparing our producers, our Afgambian entrepreneurs to participate. In fact, hopefully before the end of the year or early next year, we should have some 2 or 3 factories testing the system. Preparations are far advanced for it to kickstart. And when we sell Gambia today, we tell investors that, look, don't look at the size of the country. Think that we are part of ECOWAS, which is 400 million consumers, but we are also part of AFCFTA, which is 1.4 billion consumers. Gambia is one of 6 countries in West Africa that are not part of a common currency. We are not in the CFA zone. You have Senegal, Bissau, Mali, and others in that UMO organization. Gambia has a dalasi. The AFCFTA has introduced a system which is to mitigate this. They call it the PAPS, the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, which enables you to supply somebody in Kenya and collect your money in shillings that AFCFTA, through the Afrexim Bank arrangements, will pay you in dalasi in the Gambia.
So, Mr. Mboj, if you're thinking of selling anything to Kenya and you can get it in your Kenyan shillings. I have a friend who, I have to say, I won't say her name, but she does work for the organization that's pushing this AFCFTA, and she's been telling me about PAPS and how it really is one of the things that they're really pleased about. With the very example he's just given, you can sell the stuff there through the PAPS system, collecting, and they will transfer you dalasis, so you don't have to then collect your whatever it is in Kenyan shillings. Yeah.
Absolutely. Put that way, who can say no? You know, first you write things down, you expect A, B, C, and D to go in a certain way and all of that. But they are all predicated on certain conditions.
Indeed, indeed.
Isn't it?
And part of it is obviously it's an electronic system. And the interesting thing about this is that in electronic transactions, because our banking system was so poor, you had to write checks and do this and that. We were ahead of the world when it came to sending money electronically. I mean, they were doing it in Kenya and, you know, M-Pesa and all these things. And people in England were like, what is that? How does it work? Now, of course, everybody does it. But, you know, Africa, by you know, necessity being the mother of invention, we came up with these things. And so PAPS, which is, again, is a sort of Pan-African payment system, is there. And it's one of the things that, you know, is going to, but as in the education, you said, you used the phrase a long way to go. We still have a long way to go, actually, even though, you know, there's a bit of excitement around it. And the other thing he talked about was the ECHO 2027. They've now announced, you know, that is when it will be properly and finally launched rather than just talked about.
Absolutely. And even before that, with this, after, you know, you're going to have certain macroeconomic, as it were, parities, situations.
Yes, because you've got one economy that's up
that's
there.
it, exactly. We are struggling in that. So we are struggling in all sorts of areas. The digital or the infrastructural deficits, they're always getting in the way.
That's right.
You know, it's good to have the commitment and all the rest of it, but there are things that you must build. That is why with the ECHO, look at it, originally it should have been rolled out in 2020, and then afterwards 2022. We've been pushing it now to 2027. So it tells you. So given the shortcomings that we have, if you do not deal with them in a serious way, then you're not going to meet the deadline of 2027. What do you see now to suggest that we're really dealing with that?
Well, this is it, because you're kind of having countries that are kind of one here, one there, one here, one there, you know. And by the way, the Eritreans are the only ones who said they're not interested in this Africa Continental Free Trade Area business at all. They're completely swerving it and they're getting on with stuff. But it's very bitty right now. And so, you know, the kind of claims that they're pushing for, it's going to kick off by then, seem quite ambitious rather, based on the fact that some economies are really struggling. And it's the same thing they had in Europe when, you know, when they tried, and you know, for a long time obviously they had the money, and then you had countries exiting the euro because they thought, you know, our economy is not at a level as, as strong as Germany. So you had Greece, so-called Grexit, long before Brexit. And, a lot of that was kind of financial or fiscal considerations of kind of, disparity in the strength of various economies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even though we must handle that, they've got some things right. Just as you mentioned earlier, that's an operational tool. What do they call it? Pan-African Payment and Settlement System.
Yeah,
absolutely. They're doing what they can. They've even got what they call the Guided Trade Initiative, where a few countries have started trading.
That's
as
right.
We're using it. So we're testing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Testing it, how it works in the real world.
Right.
And I've also read that, in fact, from 2023, I'm not sure, intra-Africa trade has sort of increased.
Yes, from a very low base.
From a very low base.
Sure.
So you just cannot expect it to leap,
sure.
as it were.
Right.
So we're seeing these efforts, but we recognize that sort of like the headwinds.
Quite.
There are quite a few headwinds that are really preventing us from really
making that
benefiting its way.
So we keep hoping. But thank you for that, Mr. Mbodj. And story number 4, President Dr. Julius Maada Bio, the president of Sierra Leone, is also the current ECOWAS chairman, did a kind of whirlwind visit. It's the only way to describe it here in the Gambia. He was here, and then the next minute he wasn't. Have a look, have a listen.
As chairman of ECOWAS, President Bio's visit comes at a crucial time when the West African sub-region is facing multiple challenges, including security threats, economic pressures, efforts to deepen regional integration, and this week a weather-related state of emergency in Cabo Verde.
Of course, I had to get in the Cabo Verde mention, Mr. Mbodj. People would expect me to. But I, on a serious note, I did that for a reason, and that is that when Maada Bio left here, they didn't do a press conference, and people were saying, why not? But he did a press conference in Cabo Verde, and I said, well, yeah, they've had 11 people killed, several missing, because of weather they've not had for 30 years. Of course, he'll give a press briefing and a statement there. What's there to brief about in the Gambia? Kids drifting? That's not a story, worthy of being mentioned. And it was quite amusing that the other bit was this allegation that he told President Barrow not to seek a third term. And I have to shoot that down with it's total nonsense, because he himself was hoping that somehow they could manipulate things for him to get a third term. So he's hardly likely to lecture anybody about that. Really.
Absolutely. So I wouldn't even touch that. I doubt if President Maada Bio would say something like that diplomatically.
Quite.
To be quite risky.
Yeah, quite.
So, well, for me, my point was perhaps a press conference. They could have said why he was here.
Yeah, quite. Because
he's
it
the
was such
chair
a brief
of ECOWAS
visit. They had a closed-door meeting. They could have briefed us on. I mean, so he skipped the people at the airport because he came an hour earlier than the media had been informed he was coming, and then when they got there, only to be told that he would not be giving the kind of brief, and because he was dashing off to Cabo Verde. I mean, Cabo Verde can wait. It didn't need him to. He could have said just a few words. 5 minutes wouldn't have really, derailed him, whatever the term is for upsetting your air plans. But he came and he went. Like, so why was he here?
Yes.
Was the thing,
sometimes with these visits, I don't know why he made a visit, but some of these visits you have leaders having bilateral agreements, signing bilateral agreements, or MOU.
Well, this is it.
Stuff like that. But none of that, nothing
came out of it.
None of that came out.
And we know that he's the current chairman of ECOWAS, and perhaps he's just paying visitor, went to Senegal, went to Guinea-Bissau and Cabo Verde. But he could have said, this was just me kind of, making my first visit as ECOWAS chairman, and end of story. And
absolutely, and that's it.
Yeah.
So now, with that vacuum, people will begin to speculate.
Absolutely.
So hence what you've just said there, some people say that...
You go online, all kind of bad
they'll
stuff.
say that,
Some I haven't even dared to mention. Yeah, quite.
So this is the key. Sometimes you just wonder with their decision making.
Yeah, like who advises folks
who
like
advises them.
So, and in case you're wondering, no, we don't know why he came, but he did come. But thank you for that, Mr. Mboch. Story number 5, which will also take us to the break. A U.S. court has sentenced a former jungler, and he's awaiting his fate to find out. They wanted some seriously stiff sentence, but it looks like it won't be as drastic as the prosecution were hoping for. Have a look, have a listen.
The government's evidence showed that Correa, along with his co-conspirators, tortured and abused victims accused of plotting a coup against the regime then in power in the Gambia, a West African country that at the time was under the regime of President Yahya Jammeh. Correa belonged to a special unit of the president's security forces known as the Junglers, who brutally cracked down on what the regime claimed was a coup plot. Trial testimony revealed the direct role Correa played in that torture.
And of course, we're doing this one because his sentence is a matter of days away. 22nd of August is when he will find out his fate. It is likely he might get 8 years, but they wanted 100 and something.
120.
120 years. Only the Americans can go for those sort of things. But again, the reason we have this is because there has been talk, and the big discussion is these other jurisdictions seem to be moving on with prosecuting these people, but we are still dragging our feet in spite of what came out of the TRRC recommendations.
Yes, they've got the legal system to do it.
It's
They've got the expertise.
Yeah.
They've got all sorts of things that we really do not have. So here, 5 counts of torture. There's one of what? Conspiracy to commit torture.
Yeah.
Look, he's going through a process. Even should they give him 2 weeks.
Yeah, quite.
You know what I mean?
Right.
He's going through a process, and I don't think that the process is rigged.
It was in open court.
Yes, it was in open court.
Yeah.
He's been found guilty.
Yeah.
I think that is really that is significant for me. The rest, fine, the American system, but for me, morally, what we take from it. Another victory. Already one record's victory. Another victory.
That's
really
right.
People fighting for justice.
Indeed.
Really. That's how I see it.
And of course, we have by law in Germany as well. So that one to come. So, but you're right. It's a victory.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And in our case, you just never know the way we do politics and the way our institutions are like. This kind of clarity, moral clarity, I call it, really, that we've just seen in this court. Yes. Sometimes the way we do things, and we've always said it, the institutions don't work well. It's all about personalities, as it were. So that gets in the way of so much.
Quite.
You know what I'm saying? Yes. And I think in the end, everything would be vitiated by all kinds of political compromises, or I do not know, social pressure of one sort or another. So we have all this panoply of sort of things that get in the way of moral clarity. This is just, let's do it.
This is it, moral clarity.
Absolutely.
Excellent. That's a great point to end on. And we will go for a commercial break. And after the break, we will have 5 more stories. Join us after this break.
Q Money and Orange Money has just made money transfer easier. Now you can send money from Gambia to Senegal directly from your Q Money wallet. So what are you waiting for? Get your Q Money account now and start sending money to your friends and families through Orange Money in Senegal now. For more information, call our customer care on 133. Q Money, Sunu Kalpe. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello and welcome back. You are watching QTV and you are watching the Week in Review. I'm Ade Darami. This week we commemorated International Youth Day, and our colleague Jennifer Sonko went out and she spoke to some people about the topic. Have a look, have a listen.
Young people are the frontline defenders of democracy anywhere you go in the world. When it comes to building the pillars of democracy, when it comes to building the pillars of economy, young people are always in the front line. So you cannot remove them from the workforce. You cannot remove them from the pillars of those that actually make sure democracy works and deliver. If you look at most countries that have a youthful population, if they leverage on those youth population, those countries tend to thrive. And Gambia as a youthful population, we've seen a lot of young people getting into parliament, getting into local government elections, and now also, in fact, we've seen young people that are willing to step up, and drive the narrative of our country's democratic discussions.
Young people stepping up, Mr. Mboj, and this year's theme was Local Youth Actions for the SDGs and Beyond, Sustainable Development Goals and Beyond. And we heard there from Mar Nyang about young people becoming active and activists even across Kenya, Nigeria, Uganda, of course, here in the Gambia.
That's it. But the question I always ask is that how are these young people when you give them public office? How do they behave? For instance, when you said that now you have young people in parliament
and
or
local councils,
in local government,
yeah.
or councils, or we've just been listening to the inquiry.
Yeah.
We know what's going on there. So how are these young people like in such positions?
Yeah, quite.
See, for me, this is really a test of whether we are going to enjoy the dividend, the youth dividend, or the time bomb, as it were. Yeah, so I am not so sure about that. Hey, look, it's pointless to say these things because whether we like it or not, young people will be running things.
Well, this is it.
65% or 70% of our population were under 35, stuff like that.
That's right.
So willy-nilly, they'll be running things. So for me, it's not simply about young people, but let's move on. What do they embody? What are the values? We've seen how we betrayed ourselves post-independence. We've got 60 years of experience. How would you be different?
Yeah, sure.
We've seen what the problems are. How would you be different? Yeah. I haven't heard much argument on that. Sure. It's always about their rights and, you know, all this highfalutin talk about young people, this young people, that young people, this young people, that. I think some people maybe make money from saying such things.
Well, they do.
But the reality, what is their revolution?
Well, this is it. Is it a Burkina Faso type scenario, Guinea-Conakry, Senegal, where you now have young and youngish people holding the reins of power? How are they performing?
That's it.
What's different to the ones that came before them? And that really is the crucial point, and you've absolutely hit the nail on the head. It's not just not celebrate people because they're young. Celebrate them because they're going to be different. They're going to be better than whatever they came and find. They don't become part of that rotten system. You know, they can make all the claims when they're not in the system, but when they get into the system, do they behave differently? Do they behave better?
That's it. Look at this, wouldn't call him youth, Jomai Faye is 44, 45, granted, but the youngest, really,
still the
sort
youngest.
Of democratically elected.
Right.
But look at what they're trying to do, so one begins to understand that, you know, the old fiefdoms, as it were, that's it, they want to break that. And how many times have we said, this is really what should be our political commitment. Really, how do you break the parallel state and make institutions work for the people, not being extractive? That's really what should be our revolution right now. The enemy is really within. Though for a long time we used to say, oh, the West, this, they're not allowing us that, the East, and all sorts of things. But you realize that the demon is really inside you.
This is it.
If you don't take care of the demon inside you, you'll be easy pickings.
This is it. And you know,
people out there.
I'm obviously not a youth because of my age, but when we were young and we were at school, one of my classmates went on to become a state governor in Nigeria. I can even name him because he was impeached, Loki Igbenedion. And we were embarrassed because we were the ones who, when we sat around, we talked about how these corrupt elders, and he became equally, if not more corrupt than some of the people he sort of took over from and ended up being impeached for corruption.
When I was at high school, there was this group, they called themselves Terror 18.
Right.
You know, they were against the corruption, the people of Fajara, Kepo, and whatever, that sort of thing. So now, looking back in one of these commissions,
yeah.
Some
of them are appearing there.
Some of them are appearing there.
Yeah, yeah.
And he'll be
not
talking
in a
about
good light.
millions of this, millions of that.
Quite.
And I said, where is that?
Yeah, that idealism.
That spirit,
so,
as it were, that spirit. What happened to that spirit?
Sure.
So it's easy when you are not in the positions
I
to be
said
calling
all the
yourself,
time,
oh,
yeah.
I'm not, if I were in the position, I wouldn't behave this way or that way.
Sure.
But once you are in the position, you become like them. So young people, politics is part of the challenges you face today. I mean, technology, innovation, fine.
Yeah,
but without the politics, none of that would benefit the state.
This is it. So yeah, so International Youth Day, all well and good, but hey, a big but thank you for that, Mr. Mboj. Story number 7, Mali, one of the Alliance of Sahel States countries. Assimi Goïta had staged 2 coup d'etats to stage 1, handed over, and then staged another, and now he looks like he's there to stay. People are now, as usual, begging him to contest when they do go to civilian route. Well, they would, especially if they're carrying guns. But this week, some high-profile people were arrested, allegedly for plotting a coup. Have a look, have a listen.
A deepening crisis is unfolding in Mali, where more than 40 soldiers, reportedly including 2 generals, have allegedly been taken into custody over an alleged plot to remove the ruling military government. Military and political sources say the soldiers were planning to undermine national institutions, though the government has made no official announcement. Some early reports name high-ranking officers including General Abbas Dembele and General Nyima Sagara among those detained. However, a source close to Dembele later confirmed to the BBC that he had not been arrested and is in good health. These arrests come as the ruling junta, led by Colonel Assimi Goïta, faces increasing criticism, and violence against civilians by jihadist groups continues. With former politicians behind bars, unrest brewing in the military, including over the failure to honor the return to civilian rule, and insurgents gaining momentum, Mali's military leadership is now facing pressure on multiple fronts. Military juntas are in the habit of claiming plots to overthrow them. As such, it is still unclear whether the alleged coup plot poses a real threat or if it's part of a broader strategy to silence dissent within the armed forces.
We ended with that bit, Mr. Mboj, because when you go online, and if you can speak French or not, you can always translate. A lot of the Malian diaspora are saying, A, Abbas Dembele is an honorable man, is a patriot, governor of, I think, the northern region. This can't be true. And as we heard, somebody who claimed to be a friend had given an interview with the BBC saying he hasn't been arrested. So there have been all these names leaked, firstly by an Ivorian broadcaster, and it took 2 days before Mali's or RTM came out and said, yes, these people have been arrested and here they are, and then paraded them, or at least paraded their pictures of them having been arrested, including one Frenchman. So already there's a kind of tension, because the ones who were defending Dembele were saying that he's a patriot and he was only concerned because of Assimi Goïta's power grab. That's what he was trying to stop. So as ever with military coups, they're always seeing ghosts and threats from every corner.
I said it. There was a pro-democracy rally in May.
Yeah, quite.
And it's not usual, really, to say the least, really, since these people took over to have these rallies. One analyst said that the authorities are well aware of the discontent in the population.
Sure.
And there's something brewing in the army.
In the army.
As well.
Quite.
So this move is really more intimidatory.
Yeah, quite. Because
than
the charge
anything
is
else.
that, you know, I saw the military spokesman, Mohamedine, he said that these people are trying to destabilize the nation. And so they've been putting, whereas before they'd kept a kind of radio silence, now every third news report, as I said, if you go on this channel ORTM on Facebook, every third report is about the coup. And they're saying to people, in spite of that, life is going on as usual. So the president, as he's now called, attended a fashion show, and he attended a football match, the Assimi Goita Cup, no less. And so they're trying to say, look, no need to worry, we have everything in control. These people have been arrested, carry on with your daily lives.
Absolutely, he was bound to do that. This rival script, as it were, this bravado, and it comes across as bravado, as we're trying to show people that everything is under control, everything is fine. Of course, that is not true. Otherwise, you wouldn't have arrested those 40, including 2 generals.
Well, this is it, and this is it. And in case anybody is wondering, the big project he's launched on Saturday, as in Saturday the 16th of August, is the sanitation and beautification of the nation. Our neighborhood, our country, he's called it, and he's going around the country saying to people, beautify your neighbor, and by extension, beautify the country. So
he's doing his best to whitewash what's going on.
The discontent,
That's it. But you see the insurgents, the gaining momentum.
They're attacking barracks.
Absolutely.
Quite.
It's really difficult to rule. This is what we were talking about. We've seen this for God knows how long. You're not within the corridors of power, as it were, and you know. When you look in, you think that these people are having a good time, they can't do it, we can do it. Then you come in, you realize that it's really extremely difficult to govern.
It really is.
So this is it. How far would they go? This shows that they're quite vulnerable.
Oh, indeed.
As it were, really. It shows them. We'll see where this one is going.
It's not so easy to govern. Thank you for that, Mr. Mboj. Story number 8. And I know time is our enemy, but the Gambia Revenue Authority, because of various programs that they're instituting and systems, they felt it necessary to engage various professions. They started with lawyers and then accountants, and they're going to be encouraging others to come in, talk and discuss because of the pivotal role that they play in the tax system. Have a look, have a listen.
Today's engagement brought together members of the legal fraternity, a critical group in shaping compliance and advising taxpayers. Tomorrow, the second day, will focus on accountants. GRA officials said these engagements aim to explain how ITAS will work, its benefits, and the role these professionals must play in its success. Yankuba Dabo, Commissioner General of the Gambia Revenue Authority, said the system will transform tax payment in the Gambia by promoting voluntary compliance and accountability. He urged stakeholders, particularly legal practitioners, to support the project, noting their vital role as agents of taxpayers.
Here today, we acknowledge the pivotal role that you play in the legal and physical landscape of our society. The practice of law, particularly in taxation, requires a clear awareness of not only the existing legal framework, but also the instruments and technologies that underpin them. The iTax will represent a fundamental shift in how tax administrations operate, and it is imperative that both the tax administrators and tax agents are fully equipped to navigate this new environment.
Yankuba Dabo, they're talking about a fundamental shift. And just on a lighter note, I don't know how we got away with referring to the legal fraternity rather than profession. They're not all brotherhoods. There are women in the legal profession as well. But on a serious note, Yankuba Dabo has and the GRA have engaged people, and have also held a series of programs here on QTV about this kind of integrated tax administration system, ITAS. And so, you know, they're trying to kind of sensitize both, you know, the professions as well as the public.
Absolutely. And I went around looking where ITAS has been integrated, sort of used, Mauritius, Nigeria, Ethiopia, and all the rest of it. But look at this, some of the issues that they've been facing to show us potentially, as it were, what could be. Now look at Malawi. ITAS systems prone to crashes due to poor connectivity, stuff like that, costly to upgrade. Now look at Sierra Leone, resistance from tax officials themselves, accustomed to manual workflows. So how do you manage change? So absolutely. Once you institute it, you know, once you operationalize it, the potential for it to really drastically change, transform, as it were, the way we do business, financial transactions will be radically radically changed. But would you get it? Do you have the infrastructure in place? We always told that for it to work, you need to have the infrastructure in place. You need to have the institutional commitment, as it were. So many things have to go right.
You know, how do you track? How do you monitor?
How do you monitor?
And as you mentioned in the Sierra Leone case, there was an article which mentioned that, you know, some of the biggest earning companies, because they were giving bungs to tax collectors and inspectors, were paying very, very little tax. And so this is some of what this is hoping to address by making it kind of, you know, digitized particularly. And of course, as I mentioned, they're integrated so that, you know, you don't have to do lots and lots of things. You can go through a portal and then there are steps that take you through to there. But it can be subject to crashes and so on.
Big time. How do you manage the change, you know, to get people to be committed to it? So that would be the challenge, really, in the end.
Yeah, sure. So that one to look out for, but thank you for that. Story number 9 and 10, both are to do with the Gambia Immigration Department, really. I'm always tempted to run them together, but they're very different. And one is to do with document and security and fraud detection training. Why do they need this? This might tell you.
The training taking place at the Banjul International Airport is a multi-phase program offered to the Gambian Immigration Department by various Dutch government agencies as part of a growing bilateral cooperation. The training will focus on strengthening the capacities within the GID in the identification and verification of travel and identity documents, detection of irregularities, and prevention of identity fraud. It is designed to support the operational staff in carrying out their duties with confidence, accuracy, and understanding of procedures.
We believe that sustainable migration management requires more than strategies on paper. It requires hand-on collaboration between professionals, mutual learning, and strengthening of institutional capacity.
In the next phase, we really hope to offer an advanced training program, not only to deepen their knowledge on the content, on the document fraud and identification itself, but also to equip them with the skills to deliver document training themselves in the future for the new colleagues that may come within the GID.
Detecting document fraud, particularly when it comes to trafficking. I wonder if they know how much they've bitten by coming to the Gambia, where, you know, document fraud is rife, one has to say, of all sorts, you know, from people telling me that I've never driven a car, but I've got a driving license. One said I'd never even sat behind the wheel of a car, and I got a driving license. So, you know, but they were doing it in the context of, you know, fraud that then allows people to traffic other people. But this is quite some task for them, isn't it?
Yes, but what you've just said, maybe that's the reason why we need this training.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, quite. I just said you didn't know how much they've probably bitten off more than they can chew with the Gambia, really.
Big time. There again, the challenge will be commitment.
Sure.
You know what I mean? When you see this training, you think, of course, that's the sort of thing you need. You need periodic training to make you more competent in the work that you do. But we also know that with our institutions, yes, that aspect of expertise, know-how exists, but there are other aspects as well, our commitment to some of these values and the like. So really, this is what our problem is. When you have just this training without other aspects, you're not going to see the outcome you want.
Exactly. But nonetheless, we're glad they're doing it. Let's hope they can follow up on it. Thank you for that. Story number 10, again, our colleagues from the GID, Gambia Immigration Department. There's been a clinic that's about to be opened or is about to be built in Abuko, and it's for them. No, really. Have a look, have a listen.
We work to advance healthcare, education, clean water access, livelihood and orphan care, and emergency response. we will also equip this Ashifa hospital or advanced clinic with essential medical equipment, furniture, and supplies, ensuring its function fully.
And today, with this clinic, we hope that with the community of Abuko, with the Ministry of Health, and the support and guidance we will receive from the Ministry of Interior, the rest of our services all have clinics. But as we register it last, we hope to continue to seek from you that guidance, that teamwork, that partnership, for us to begin to work in rotation to each of our clinics and see how we can make impact, or how Uniform Men can make impact with the community.
How to make an impact. It's an unusual one, a clinic in Abuko for Gambia Immigration Department folks, but it will also serve the community. And when you listen to the whole story, they're trying to roll these out in other areas where you have immigration folk, where it will be for them, but it will also serve the community. Quite an unusual one.
That's it. And for me, I'm asking, what's the rationale behind building these?
For
immigration. It's just a new model of sector-based, as it were, health facilities. Because next, would you have the police? Would you have others?
Well, apparently that's what they intend to do, because this organization, Africa Relief, I can't remember the full name, the president of that organization is here in the Gambia. And in fact, their kind of signature projects used to be boreholes and wells, but now they're gravitating to other things, schools, hospitals, and and in fact, of their work in Africa, the Gambia was the first country where they started to do any work, and so they've thought that it would also be the first country where they wanted to do something like this.
Why not improve Abuko Clinic?
Yeah, quite. Because they're building a brand new one. Yeah,
you know what you mean? There's Abuko Clinic.
Maybe it's beyond beyond improving or beyond refurbishment. I don't know.
But do it for Abuko, do it for the community, and everybody can benefit. So to me, this is very weird.
I find it odd, and in a way that's why I chose the story, because I think it's quite a weird story.
Absolutely.
Build it for GID. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but why?
That's exactly it. How common is this? How widespread is this? I do not know. I can understand in a sort of like big office complex we can have a dispensary.
Quite.
Isn't it? That's quite normal. But the whole clinic or whatever for this sector, particularly for this sector, even though they'll tell you, oh, the community will benefit as well, then
build it for the community.
Yes, and what about if the community begins to overwhelm you?
Which they they may well do.
Absolutely.
You know? Because just sheer numbers, of course. Yeah.
How do you manage expectations? What kind of an experiment is this? Whose idea is it? It's just a very strange.
It's an odd one. It's an odd one, and I think it's good that we end on an odd one. But thank you, Mr. Budge, for your interjections. Thank you to our viewers, and I must apologize that due to illness, Lamindi Sonko, our signer, was not able to join us this week, but next week, inshallah, he will be here. So until we come your way again next week, goodbye.